Hello, it's Dr. Cortex here, and you're listening to Raw Dogs, one of my favorite podcasts. So keep listening. Who knows what you'll find out?
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Raw Dogs.
Starring
Your very own personal second favorite host of Raw Dogs, Brad, over here.
Hey. And then fourth favorite, Dylan.
Oh, shit.
The first and third favorites are our girlfriends who were on for one episode.
Yes.
But our
Still a hit.
But our fifth favorite co-host over here, who also joining us.
Hi, my name's Tom. I'm from Hair of the Dogcast. I podcast with you guys. Why do you fucking don't know me?
Well, it's great to meet you for the first time, Tom. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi. All right. Well, I'm happy to be here, guys.
We are happy to have you, Tom.
Woo!
We're the Raw Dogs. We do deep dives on video game topics.
Yep.
We're introducing kind of a new subset where we're going to do deep dives into years, like a specific year, and this is going to be one of the golden years of gaming with 1997.
A great year.
I was 9 years old at the start of 1997.
Wait, you're 2 years older than me?
If you were 7 at this time, I was just a regular second grader at St. Lawrence Catholic School. I had just received columns for the Sega Genesis for Christmas, so that gives you a little context to where I was at the start of 1997.
Wow.
Oh, boy, Colin.
Thanks, St. Nick.
So, Dylan, you were kindergarten at the time then?
7 years old. I must have been first grade.
Yeah.
First, second grade, yeah.
We had a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis. That's kind of what was going on in my household.
I had a Game Boy. I had a used Sega Genesis that sometimes worked. You really had to like fiddle with it. I remember that correctly. And I had the games that my mom bought that came with it. There was this great game called Target Earth. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that game.
Earth.
Yes. And it had one of the coolest covers. And I remember it very specifically because
Wasn't a crosshair on that one?
Yes. But it was a man in like outer space in a spacesuit, and he had like a really cool pose.
Yeah.
And I remember playing that religiously. I actually beat that one. That was the first hard game I think I ever beat.
We were
a little proud.
We were young pups at the time. Tom, you had a couple of years on us.
A little bit, yep. I started 97, 18 years old as an adult, a fully fledged adult, and then finished out the year as a 19-year-old, a grizzled 19. Oof. I was a college freshman at my local technical school in Watertown, Wisconsin.
Watertown, okay.
Yes.
I
worked in the computer lab there as a part-time job.
Not
so
a
I had
boy,
access to
not yet a man.
That's right. Access to a cable internet connection.
Whoa.
Because I lived out in the country and just had a dial-up and no access to anybody. That was me. So yeah, you guys were in second grade. I was in college.
You were doing some PC gaming, I know. You were also a console gamer, though?
This was probably my golden age of gaming. I had a Sega Saturn, PlayStation, a 3DO, SNES, N64, and I just built a new PC this year, a Pentium 2 333 megahertz, 32 megabytes of RAM.
Damn, Daniel.
Yes. And I built it myself. So it was the first computer that I ever built. I still remember it fondly. Mm-hmm. But I did a lot of gaming and played a lot of shit.
I'm happy you're here because our experiences in 97 might have been a little different. Definitely still big into the gaming at the time, but as you'll learn throughout this episode, a lot of seminal franchises and big things happened this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Huge games.
Yep.
Before we start the episode, we're going to be focusing on North America. So the release dates that we're talking about, unless specified otherwise, these are the North American release dates. Starting off the year, the PS1 has been out for a year. The Sega Saturn has been out for a year and a half in North America. And the Nintendo 64 was released only 3.5 months ago. All systems are for sale at $199 at the beginning of the year. Saturn is lagging behind. 64 is putting out some good numbers, but PlayStation is still far out in the lead.
All thanks to Mario 64.
Because that was all that was available.
Didn't have the
that's
most
exactly
stellar
right,
of launch
yes.
titles when it came out.
Yeah, they had to hold the console back from release
Yeah.
until Mario was finished. So,
Good on them. It's a great game still.
oh, come on. Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what's tricky about doing research for 1997? You think it would be easy to find the dates for a lot of these things.
No.
It actually isn't. To try and find the date that Irrational Games was founded. Everyone says it was started in this year. No one can even say the month if you do a lot of deep diving online. So I had to go back into all of my old Game Pros, which Game Pros, they skew to the younger audience. I didn't realize it at the time because I was thinking
A young
it was
audience.
very
Yep.
mature. And a fun fact, January of 1997 was the 100th issue of Game Pro, although it is a fucking lie because they skipped 11 issues numbers so they could get to an issue 100 before the other game magazines.
Wow, which means
Did they really?
nothing.
They did do that, which means nothing, but
Yeah.
welcome to January.
That sounds like something Game Pro would do.
You know what? Marvel Comics has done this before, so whatever. It's literally just it's creating a hype train. It's so dumb.
January, the Spice Girls released their smash hit Wannabe.
Fun fact, the first time I ever heard Spice Girls Wannabe was on the way to a Metallica concert on Valentine's Day, 1997.
Whoa.
That's fucking crazy.
Was it a Valentine's Day date?
With a bunch of dudes, gonna go rock out some fucking Metallica, baby.
They call that stag.
So Tom and all of your buddies, you're all dressed up in full Metallica head to toe gear.
Yep, Guar. We looked exactly like Guar.
And you're listening to Spice Girls?
Yeah.
What was the reaction?
One of the dudes that came that we went with was like, "You gotta listen to this. I really like this."
Really?
And we were listening to Metallica on the way there. You know, obviously, yeah, we're fucking getting into the mood. And then he was like, Darren.
Yo, tell you what I want.
Yeah. We're just like, what the fuck
Yeah.
are you doing? We never let him touch the radio again.
The Green Bay Packers clinch a Super Bowl victory against the New England Patriots, 35
Oh, I remember that. I grew up
God, I
in
got
Green Bay.
so hammered.
Some big games came out in January. Diablo made its first official release for the PC. Mm-hmm. Yes, later sources, some people try to claim it comes out on December 31st. Ultimately, that's when the game has its anniversary. Release days are fuzzy back then, so you don't really know what day things are actually coming out.
What do they call them? Shelf dates?
Shelf dates.
Before you could really,
we are still in the period of nebulous release days. Retailers get the games when they get them.
Some people got them days early, and some people got them way later.
Yeah.
From what I understand.
It's very hard to break those dates these days.
And-
it's almost impossible.
Well, especially during the NES, everyone will argue with you. They're like, I got it from Sears on this date, dude.
So if you were like a big video game head like I was, who really craved to play shit as soon as it came out, you had to be vigilant. I had fucking Babbage's and Funkoland on speed dial, and I would call them almost every day. Hey,
No
did you
shit.
get Fallout in?
Wow.
And they wouldn't know me from Adam, and they'd be like, yeah, we just got Fallout in. I'd be like, and we could just say, hey, can you just save that copy for me? I'll be in an hour. And they'll be like, all right. Don't even ask for a name. They would just hold games for you, no pre-ordering or anything like that.
you come in
Funkoland.
sweating like, hey, my name's Tom. Do you still have it?
There was one time I went, I think it was for Fallout, and it was Babbage's at Brookfield Square, and I just got a new credit card. I forgot to sign it. So I went there to buy Fallout, and I'm like, yeah. And then I didn't sign my card, so they're like, we can't take your card.
Yeah. Really?
So
remember.
I said, hey, I'll sign it. And you're like, sir, you just can't sign it in front of me. And I'm like, what if
why not?
What if I leave and come back? And they're like, that's fine. So I'm like, can I borrow your marker?
As long as it's not on camera.
Went across to fucking Hot Topic or whatever was, signed it, came back, bought Fallout.
Funkolands didn't last, I want to say, too much longer than around this, because I remember only a couple of times as a kid, and it was when we were going to the bigger city, because we have our own Watertown in South Dakota, and there wasn't a Funkoland there, but there was in like Sioux Falls.
Really?
And I remember just being blown away, a place that had all the NES games still too, because they had everything.
Yeah, same here. I'd always have to drive to the big city.
So was it big city Madison?
For me, it was Milwaukee usually.
For my age, all of the news that I got for video games, I had an older brother who was, of course, we were subscribed to GamePro, and it was reading GamePros. And it's interesting because when you go back and look at these GamePros, they're reviewing games like 3 months after they were officially released.
Yeah. because they didn't have deals set up,
Yeah. Diablo sold 500,000 copies by release day with pre-orders, and it would be the #1 PC title for the next 3 months.
I didn't give a shit about it.
Yeah.
I was not a huge Blizzard fan back then, although I did play me a lot of Warcraft, and especially Warcraft 2.
I bought Diablo 3 for the PS4, and I barely could touch it. To me, having that CRPG, like far out, third person or whatever you want to call it, that isometric, top-down look is just very off-putting to me. And it's never worked for me.
Huh.
I played Diablo 2 a lot. I haven't touched Diablo 1 ever.
Soul Blade landed on the PS1. Of course, it is the PlayStation port of Soul Edge.
Soul Edge.
The arcade game would go on to become the Soul Calibur series, which I don't have a ton of strong feelings for. I played Soul Calibur 2. It's fine enough.
Blades are cooler than fists.
There was kind of the Tekken people making a weapon game, which was pretty fun.
Yep. I'll always take Samurai Showdown over Fatal Fury. And
Samurai Showdown is legit to quit.
The Sega Saturn, in response to the popularity of the Nintendo 64, drops the price of some of its games to the then unheard of price of $19.99. Sega Saturn games for $20. And you were a Saturn gamer at the time, Tom.
Yeah.
And is most of your Saturn collection sitting here behind me?
It has since kind of dwindled down, but I would say majority of the games are there. I have the discs, but I might not have the jewel cases anymore. But yeah, I was a huge Sega Saturn fan.
You were a huge Saturn fan.
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I was one of the people that walked into Babbage's that one day in 1995 and right after the Stealth release and looked and like, what the fuck? What happened here?
Yeah, because they dropped it early.
Yeah, they surprise dropped it.
Yeah.
The first day of E3. And the guy at Babbage's is like, it's Sega Saturn.
You ever seen that video, Brad?
I feel like I might have. Was it just a lot of people being kind of confused?
It technically, some people were confused in the audience, but most people cheered from what I remember.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, huge Sega Saturn fan. Played it more than PlayStation for sure.
Oh, really?
I loved the Saturn. It was,
You're a huge Nights into Dreams fan.
Also, some new games dropped from $69.99 to $59.99. They're trying to be competitive here because they're realizing their Steam is going out of the system. Mm-hmm. We'll see as the year goes on that they are going to lose interest in the Saturn pretty quick.
Yeah, one of the benefits I had back then was one of the popular retailer that I worked at the time started carrying Sega Saturn games and also 3DO games, and I had both systems. So let's just say I didn't spend a lot of money on games back then.
It's fine.
It's statute of limitations.
It's not like they can
I was
fire
caught
you now.
and I was arrested and I did my time.
The Sega 32X debacle.
Listen, I hear you.
Star Wars
I hear you
Arcade?
still have to talk to every one of your neighbors about the fact that you stole a 3DO game.
Hi, I'm living in the neighborhood. I just want you to know that.
Right. I'm sorry. Here's a pamphlet. Yeah, I live next 2 houses down.
Do your kids have any game systems? I just need to know about them.
Kids, theft is wrong. I was young and stupid.
Another classic game had its first visit to the console generation with Mega Man 8 coming out for the PlayStation 1. Well, I remember thinking that next to Mega Man X, this game looked pretty dumb. It was cartoony, and I wanted to have that badass, cool-looking armor.
So,
In retrospect, though, Mega Man 8 is fantastic.
not better than X. This year is also X4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to play a zero in that one. But whatever.
But that voice acting. Come on, Mega Man.
Dr. Weinrein.
Mega Man. Mega Man 8's pretty good.
I love the
some
design
great
of the
mechanics.
levels.
Yes.
Like the design of the bad guys are all cool.
I bet the Saturn version was better than the PS1 version.
It drops on the Sega Saturn as well.
Well, the Saturn is known as like a way better 2D machine than the PS1.
Well, and Sony initially chose not to have this release on the PlayStation because they only wanted 3D games at the time. But when they heard it was going to Saturn, they're like, oh, fuck it, just put it on there then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mega Man 8 is controversial because it introduces a lot of because usually your blaster powers that you get from bosses are very straightforward. They maybe have an arc to them or they do something a little bit different. Whereas in Mega Man 8, it starts you off on the first level and you have this ball that you have to kick. Mm-hmm. And
that's weird. That soccer ball thing was bad.
Yeah. I love this game. I do. I think it's really good.
Did it come out before or after Mega Man Soccer? Probably after, huh?
After.
It would be after,
because
yeah.
after Mega Man Soccer's on the Genesis, right?
Everyone played soccer. They'll get this, right?
Come on.
You put the soccer ball down.
Put the robot dog in there.
Metal Man.
Rounding out January, January 31st, Final Fantasy VII was released in Japan after 3 years in development with a staff of over 100 people, combined development and marketing budget of $80 million.
Never heard
releases.
We
Never
have
heard
a
of it.
full-ass episode on that.
We have 3 full-ass
7
episodes on that.
1,000 hours of podcasting.
I call them all one episode, part 1, part 2, part 3.
For me as a child, this was one of the first times hearing a bunch about a game being released in Japan, and you hear a lot about it before it comes over. The hype train for 7 was a very real thing after this until it comes out in September.
I remember seeing the posters for Final Fantasy VII and just being like, that dude can carry a sword that fucking big? And I'm like, it's like super dramatic. It's an upshot. It's him looking at Shinra Tower. Yeah. And I probably drew 1,000 pictures of this guy. I didn't even know his fucking name.
Next time I go home, I will take some pictures of some of the cloud artwork I have done, and we will all cringe together.
Yes, it's fine.
Tom, I see you made a note about PC video cards.
Yes, I did. This was the year that hardware acceleration and video cards and PCs started to proliferate around the world, where motherboards started having AGP, advanced graphic ports. PC graphics had always kind of outshone console graphics for the most part, but this was the beginning of a quantum leap of fidelity versus consoles. And I think this is when PC gaming really became a viable place to play console type games on your PC. And
but people finally accepted it for what it could do.
Yep. And you had a rivalry between competing formats of video cards. You had 3DFX versus pretty much everybody else. 3DFX used an API called Glide, and everyone else was based off of a Direct 3D and OpenGL, which was a Microsoft kind of variant of hardware acceleration. As we go through some of the PC games, I'm sure we'll hit on some of these bells and whistles or what made them better due to this new technology.
Back then, it was pretty diverse. Nowadays, when you get a graphics card, for people who don't know, if they're curious, it's all pretty homogenous. It's like you're just getting a better version of the last thing, and it's all pretty freaking straightforward. You can literally just get a card, reinsert it back into your PC. If you got enough RAM to run it, you're okay.
Yep. And I mean, some games only ran on 3DFX cards.
Yeah.
You could only have acceleration on them versus...
We'll get to E3 a little bit later, but I know that this E3 this year was also 3DFX was slapped onto all the PC stuff. If it was run like kind of designed to have the 3DFX card in mind, that logo was on all the PC stuff that year. February, Tom goes to a Metallica concert. Listens to Wannabe. The Simpsons becomes the longest running animated series ever with its 167th episode. Damn. Dolly the sheep becomes the first cloned mammal in Scotland. Resident Evil 2 is pushed back from March to September, ultimately January of the following year. And despite the hard-to-find Nintendo 64, which is something we talked about the other night with our Nintendo thing, Sony is still currently the number one system. 10 million sold worldwide to 64's 3.5 million.
For back then.
To put that into perspective, though, it also had an extra 9 months to get to those numbers. So 64 is taking a pretty big bite out of the market, and it's coming up this month. Some pretty big games come out, but I think one of the most notable things is a game that didn't come out. Sonic Extreme officially canceled by Sega. There will be no fully 3D Sonic game for the Sega Saturn, which is a very big nail in the coffin.
Yeah. That could have been a system seller.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I know we talked about that Console Wars book last time we podcasted, but yeah, there's a great story. The CEO, Tom Kalinske of Sega, was defiant against releasing the Saturn the way that Japan wanted it released, the stealth way. He wanted it released September or wait till a fucking Sonic game is ready.
A proper system release.
Yeah, he was not okay with it at all.
It's almost with all the bad decisions Sega has made, it's amazing that they ever did anything right. Because most of the time, I think they're botching it in a big way.
They really have a great story. And they have some epic fucking failures and just boneheaded moves.
From what I see, like a lot of the breakdown of a lot of this stuff comes from like marketing departments not getting in contact with the other departments and not understanding really what they're selling.
A disconnect for sure.
Yeah, and I mean you can see it even now where like Nintendo's marketing department is horrible.
And Sonic Extreme, this was an example of where even the raw dogs, sometimes we don't go deep enough because I
know nothing about Sonic.
Well, I discovered the storyline follows Sonic on his journey to stop Dr. Robotnik stealing 6 magic rings. Okay.
Great, okay.
From Tiara Boobowski.
Boobowski.
Boobowski is the name of the female protagonist.
Ooh la la.
Tiara Boobowski and her father.
Spelled the way I think.
Boobowski.
Yes. Okay. So
Okay.
it's a traditional Polish name.
Yes, it's
right.
very Polish.
Not
girl.
going for any subtlety.
A Polish squirrel.
Right.
A film tie-in was also canceled. They were talking about doing an animated film, and when this fell through, I mean, and there was problems with development because they were trying to make a 3D Sonic game, and
They couldn't get Jim Carrey. They had to wait till 2000.
he wasn't ready yet.
Yeah, 2020.
He was booked until 2020.
Yeah.
Man, the Sega Saturn is struggling, and when they're announcing there will not be a big Sonic game coming out for it.
Yeah. It was a shame. There was a lot of desperation moves for the Saturn, but still a lot of great games to be released for it.
Sure.
Yeah, speaking of movies, Square signed a technology agreement with Alias Wavefront, a subsidiary of Silicon Graphics, getting ready for their first feature film. This will surely go perfectly.
Oh, yeah. It's cast Donald Sutherland. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Hawaii, baby.
A couple other games released this month. We have Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, and Blast Corps, very big 64 games. I haven't played either of them.
Really?
No, I haven't played either of these franchises.
Blast Corps is good.
I played Blast Corps for about 10 minutes. It's on that rare replay for Xbox.
Yeah, that's the first time I played it.
I need
as
to
well.
go back and check it out because it got really good reviews and people put it in like a list of like the best
Yeah.
64 games and like one of the best games. And like
It really does. It does what the Nintendo 64 should do. In the fact that you're seeing like a top-down thing of like bulldozers destroying
and it's like
cities.
it's a vehicle combat puzzle destruction game kind of.
Yeah, it's infinitely
like
replayable
that.
in that way. I would honestly describe this as blowing up buildings, and it's really just a show off of what 3D graphics can do because this is rare, and they're known for their graphic fidelity at this time. So
Apart from Nintendo, Rare is the one.
This is
that is knocking it out of the fucking.
This
park.
is Rare's fucking heyday.
Yep.
Right now, we are. In
this
the
game
midst
didn't
of
sell all that well, from what I understand. Literally, I remember.
I think
the
people were
cover.
confused about it.
It says Blast Core, and it was like and it had like that radiation symbol behind it or something, and then it was like just a dump truck, and it's like that's really not going to inspire confidence in this.
But-
Yeah, Turok Dinosaur Hunter came out as well.
The fog simulator.
Yeah, dinosaur
was
shooter.
way
A
worse.
lot of people went crazy for this game too. I don't have any experience with this one though.
he was also a comic book character before this.
He was.
Yes, that's what I read.
This game did get kind of panned though when it came out.
It did.
I do remember.
It deserved it too.
It
was
probably sold
great.
all right.
It had to have. It's a FPS.
But I remember reading reviews in the back of the day. I'm like, all right, I'm not touching that.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was another small game that was released, Mario Kart 64, best-selling game of the entire year.
Yep.
My favorite Mario Kart.
64 comes out swinging with just, they are the multiplayer system for sure. I guess did the Saturn even have 4 ports?
No other system.
It was just a 64.
No, you had to buy an adapter.
Yeah.
And to
PlayStation
me,
had that
if
too.
you need an adapter, that's just like a step most people aren't going to take. I had a multi-tap for the PlayStation. We use it for Crash Team Racing sometimes, but
Was the one that's shaped in the V?
yep.
Was it? Yeah.
Yep, I recall.
I know that people went fucking crazy for Mario Kart 64.
Yes, they did.
Still do.
Everyone owned it. Also, if you had a Wii U when the Wii U came out, everyone owned Mario Kart 8 because it's one of the few things that were at the time that was worth owning on it.
The 64 kind of establishes the only reason you really need every Nintendo system is Mario Kart and Smash Brothers.
Correct.
And then the Marios and Zeldas or whatever. But the reason that I get the new Nintendo systems are for Mario Kart and Smash Bros.
I can't wait for Mario Kart 9. They're going to call it something dumb though, so it's fine.
That's German for no.
No, yeah.
It'll be Mario Kart 9.
9.
9!
Mario Kart 0.
Mario Kart WW2
Mario,
Racer.
you shaved your mustache in an interesting pattern. What-
I'm ready to race. First of all, I got to say this. That game is still so entirely playable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in February 1997, we
too have
have a watershed moment for the video game industry. This is the month that the first version of MAME is released.
Awesome.
And as serendipity would have it, I was online searching on probably Netscape Navigator, maybe web crawler. I wanted to buy a game I had for the SNES called Knights of the Round by Capcom. And it just so happens, in the search, I was redirected to this website called MAME, Emulation. I had no idea what emulation was.
Right.
And I read it just had a splash screen and like a download link. Like that's all it was. And I'm like, okay, I'll try this out. Fuck it, I don't know what this is. And then it said like download ROMs. And then I saw Knights of the Round. And I'm like, what the fuck's a ROM? So I downloaded that. And then
you were in computer class, so you have some of the understanding for some of this.
Yes, I was actually in the computer lab at school where it was a no-no to play any kind of games on the PCs, and so I figured it out. I read all the text files because it was a kind of a bit of a ordeal to get it working.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, I booted it up, and here's the arcade perfect version of Knights of the Round, and it was fucking free. And I'm playing it, and I can insert as many quarters as I want by hitting the fucking number 1 button on the keyboard. I'm like, I've died and gone to fucking heaven.
Tom takes a deep breath, takes a drink from his whatever beer he's having, and then he goes back to that ROM site, and he's just downloading
Downloaded
everything.
so many ROMs, as many as I could fit on a floppy disk, which wasn't much. Probably 2, maybe.
More than only 2, you think?
Depended on the game. Yeah, I don't remember being that
guess,
much.
yeah.
But I bought a shit ton of floppy disks. So I think I even looked at getting a jazz drive back in the day.
You want to know something funny? So it wasn't until I was in 5th grade in Catholic school. There were 16 people in my entire class. So I went up to my Catholic school computer teacher and I said, I heard about this thing called an emulator. How's this work? She actually helped me figure out how to get a Super Nintendo emulator to work.
She helped become a criminal.
Yeah.
All right.
Catholic school for the win.
That's awesome.
But I remember first time that I found out about emulators was a watershed moment in my gaming career as well, because it was one thing when you had Napster and you were getting music, but to be able to get games was infinitely better. Tom, also happening this month, Tom got busted playing video games in the computer lab by Mr. Moldenhauer.
By Mr.
Moldenhauer.
He is dead now. But he's the guy that busted me playing Knights of the Round.
Rest in peace.
Knights of the Round, okay.
And thank you for busting Tom playing video games in computer lab. But what were you playing, Tom?
I was playing Knights of the Round. This was the day that I
don't even know what that is.
That's a Capcom beat 'em up, like the King Arthur time. Yeah.
Speaking of dead, in March, Notorious B.I.G. is shot and killed.
That was a sad day. But Tupac's still alive.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer makes its debut. 39 bodies are found in the Heaven's Gate suicide.
Hail Bop.
Previews of Kirby's Air Ride assure us the game will come out this summer.
Sure, another racing game.
The long-awaited Mortal Kombat sequel, Annihilation, is being shot in London, Israel, Jordan, and Thailand. Surely it will be a hit.
It's so exotic.
It's
Wow.
so much fun reading GamePro articles talking about Mortal Kombat Annihilation and how great it's going to be.
Oh, I bet.
All right, so what happens in March? Sony first, and then the Nintendo 64 slashed their prices to $149,
Okay.
which is exciting. It's fun when a console drops price.
That's pretty quick.
The PS1 also announces a standard price of $49.95 for their games. Take that, Nintendo. Your cartridges are expensive.
And it stayed that for a long time after.
It's amazing
At
that
least about 13 years, I believe.
PlayStation's releasing these like meaty multiple disc, like fuck you, like games to Nintendo 64 chagrin. Love it. Not a ton of games came out that are of huge consequence, but if you have strong feelings about any of these, jump in. We have Tekken 3, Vandal Hearts, and Hexen, and Need for Speed 2.
Hexen, I played a little bit on the PC. That was a Raven Software joint. They're from Madison. Still are, actually.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of interested in like, oh, what are they doing? But I didn't really get into Hexen too much.
No, hold on. I played Tekken 3.
Tekken 3, that was a huge arcade release. It's still widely regarded as one of the best fighting games of all time. Compared to modern fighting games, people are like, Tekken 3 still has what it takes.
It really took because the competition was so hot for these fighting games, especially then, especially the 3D versions. You had like what was the competition? Virtua Fighter, and
Virtua Fighter 2, yeah.
Soul Blade at this point.
Fighting Vipers.
Tekken was
Kombat
very
4.
skill based.
I don't know. I was never a Tekken guy. I was not a fighting guy to begin with, but
It wasn't until Tekken Tag Tournament when there was bowling that I cared.
Yeah, I can see that.
Need for Speed, I didn't care until the third one, although Need for Speed 2 took a notably arcadey approach to racing instead of going for realism, which was
Smart. Very
notable. In
smart.
Vandal Hearts, there's so many great PS1 RPGs that I just am not familiar with all of them. I'm sure a lot of people have strong feelings about Vandal Hearts.
Yes.
That came out this time as well. March 31st, the Nintendo 64 is released in Europe and Australia. Take that, you poor bastards. 6 months after the rest, after North America, and even longer.
They're busy fending off kangaroos and I don't know, the guy
Mongolian
on the
hordes or
Beefeater
something.
gin bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all see about this? Nintendo 64 came out.
I got mine from the pouch of a fucking kangaroo.
Yeah.
And that was our bad Australian
Wow.
attempts
This was
at
like 2
humor.
nights in a row of bad Australian
I
accents.
was going to say the C word, but it means something else there.
Cunt means friend over there.
It does, yeah.
It actually it doesn't mean friend, it means person. March 31st, also DVDs for sale for the first time in the US. Now,
97.
Yeah.
I didn't get my first DVD till like 2002.
it wasn't until then around for me. But my first DVD was Hollow Man.
Digital video.
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. I remember seeing my first DVD,
Mine was Resident Evil.
Twister. It's the first one I ever seen.
DVDs for sale. This will surely have an
Helen
impact
Hunt.
on the future of video games.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have a crush on Helen Hunt at this time?
Not really. I was
Really?
never really too much of a Helen Hunt fan. I
was
liked her in the
Helen-
water
I was-
dance.
I was
with Eric
Helen Hunt
Stoltz.
all the way.
April, Hanson releases Bop.
Oh, God. Heard that a bunch.
Sure.
A little too
does.
much. Yeah, even as a second grader, I knew this wasn't cool.
If I had to hear it 5 times on the bus every single day, bit of a problem.
Skipping our Australian accents, Crocodile Hunter made its debut.
Crikey.
Tiger Woods wins the Masters at 21, the youngest ever. George Lucas has disclosed that the next Star Wars will be episode 1 of a 9-part total saga.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
Can't
He
wait to
said
see
it. He said it.
Prescient. I mean,
I guess he knew it.
Well, this is in the middle of the special edition releases, right?
yeah, Empire Strikes Back special edition released this year, and that was the first Star Wars I'd seen. That was Empire in theaters.
I saw
Oh, really?
that one for the first
Okay.
time in theaters as well.
Yep. That was
Yep.
my first Star Wars.
Really?
Yeah.
The middle one?
And then I found out that there was more, and I went and watched A New Hope that night. I went home and was like, this is amazing.
It's great.
Have you guys heard about this Star Wars? And
It's like watching it in reverse.
I had kids.
Tom's got like a full Jedi outfit, and he's going to conventions.
Well, here's the thing. I had kids
I'm
in my
LARPing.
fucking preschool pretending to be like Han, Luke, and Leia. They made me
Everything
R2D2. At least I wasn't C3PO.
A lot of video games came out in April. Tom, did you play Outlaws?
No, I didn't, Brad.
It's credited with the first sniper zoom in a shooter.
Oh.
Interesting enough.
It makes sense.
It's
Star
on the
Wars,
Sierra,
Star Wars X-Wing versus TIE Fighter to keep it in the LucasArts family.
Yes. No,
Great game.
That's a fucking
Great game.
series.
It was the first multiplayer-only experience in the series where fuck the story mode. We're going to make the best multiplayer experience.
Steam has a good version of it.
Joystick with up to 8 players.
Yeah. TIE Fighter was way better than X.
TIE Fighter was way better
First
than
time you're
X-Wing.
playing
No,
as
I
a
know.
fucking, on the dark side. But
Yes. Great.
This is cool. I was-
better
The
story,
ships, the
too.
ships actually controlled differently? Is that what
Yes.
you're saying?
yeah, they had different.
The tie
feelings.
is much more maneuverable. That was the whole point of even in the movies, like they tell you that.
Yeah.
Essentially.
No, I was just rolling my eyes at like the multiplayer experience. Suboptimal.
Yes.
Speaking of suboptimal multiplayer, Doom 64 came out this month. And they're like, man,
Underrated.
We're not going to have multiplayer though. Doom was built on multiplayer to an extent.
Doom,
I know.
Doom was
But
it was
like,
huge.
I don't know.
All the multiplayer terminology came from Doom.
Doom 64 has since then got some favorable people
game.
looking back at it, and it got re-released on the Switch recently.
I
which
played
is
it on
kind
the
of
Switch.
exciting.
It's actually pretty damn good.
Supposed to have cool level design. It was postponed because they wanted to make
Yeah.
id Software was like, no, we're not happy with where you're at with what's going on with the level design. But
They-
since then, the level
Yeah.
people say the level design is some of the best in that game. So
Their hands were definitely full. Let's put it that way.
one other game before we talk about some new stuff for the month: Fighters Megamix crossover fighting game.
Playing as a car was fucking hilarious.
because they don't have a ton of franchises to jump into.
No.
So they grabbed from what was it? Virtual Fighter and Fighting Vipers
Yeah,
were
those
the
were
big
the
ones.
two in like rival street, rival schools, maybe.
Sonic the Fighters. Who could forget Bean?
I'll never forget Bean.
The mean Bean.
I'll never forget Bean.
R.I.P.
Hashtag never forget Bean.
I mean, he showed up in
Sonic Mania.
Yeah.
Man showed up.
Good
He's
for
not
him.
done.
What is Bean, by the way? Is he what
Is
animal?
that the armadillo? No, that's the
No, he's
is
like
that the bird?
He's a duck, I want to say.
Yeah, it's a bird.
Bean the Dynamite is a playable character. He's an anthropomorphic woodpecker.
Bean the dynamite? Dynamite is not a synonym for woodpecker, first of all.
But dude, he
Bean goes to
surpassed-
dynamite.
He surpassed his animal thing to become the dynamite. There was also
Can we call me Dylan the dynamite?
Somebody just had him explode.
there was Bark the polar bear in there as well. But of
Bark
course,
the
as you
polar bear,
mentioned,
yeah.
you could fight as a car, which people were.
Yes.
Yes.
That's sick.
That Daytona car was pretty iconic. back then.
I remember being interested in the Sega Saturn when I saw you could play as a car, thinking, what the fuck's going on over there?
Yeah.
I didn't have any friends who owned a Sega Saturn in all of Millbank, South Dakota.
Fucking
I've never
man.
seen a Sega Saturn.
Tom's got one in the other room. I
Wow.
want him to show us.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah.
Josh,
I've never actually seen it.
Josh is a huge Saturn fan as well. And he has, I think, a couple working ones. And
a couple working ones.
yeah, his library is bigger than mine. So
Well, the discs, apparently, like some of them just don't work anymore because CDs over time, they deteriorate. Right?
bit rot, yeah, it could be. And some of these consoles just had bad capacitors,
Right.
And and bad drives, and they just fucking fail. And
Well,
mine-
yours is just smoke stained, so
it could be.
it's just like the most yellow thing.
Mine
I've
will
ever
turn
seen.
on and get to the clock, but the drive doesn't spin. So,
shit.
but I told you last night, I'm like, I wanted to go to Midwest Gaming Classic this year, so I was actually going to pick up a Saturn now because I have been jonesing to play some Shinobi.
I feel like we could have done a lot of things if we went to the Midwest.
They might have one that makes sense. I'm pretty sure they do over there, actually.
Yep. Yeah.
The
should
price
go there.
wasn't what you wanted, or
No, I got the hankering during the quarantine, right when that started.
Yeah.
So all these places were closed, and I was like, oh.
I was there the other day. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Has reopened and it looks great. They didn't have a single Paper Mario game, which was
Shout out
why
to
I
Make Sense.
mostly went for. Sony appoints new CEO Ken Kutaragi of Sony Computer Entertainment
Ridge
America.
Racer!
Ridge Racer.
It's Ridge Racer. Ridge Racer. Remember that one?
$699 US.
Ken was around for quite some time.
Yeah, he was the man.
And there was a fallen warrior this month.
Gunpei Yokoi.
No. He's later.
He's later.
The Sega Game Gear.
The Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah. Sega Game Gear was officially discontinued, releasing 6 years earlier, selling over 10 million units, just 1/10 of the Game Boy's sales.
R.I.P. I had one.
Because it took
I liked
16
it.
fucking batteries.
You know what's great about Sega systems was even my parents who didn't want to buy shit, eventually the Game Gear and the 32X were so cheap.
Yep.
They're like, this will shut Brad up for a little bit. Give him a $20 32X.
Yeah,
And it
literally
did
it was
shut-
$20.
It did
Yeah.
shut me up for a little while until
Tiny
Knuckles Chaotix didn't make any fucking sense.
Knuckles Chaotix is very funny.
Game Gear, I had a Game Gear and I remember I had 8 games for it, and I don't have any fond memories
I
of the
played
Sega
it
games.
literally once. I played it once.
That's probably more games than I had for it.
One of my cousins who is 5 years older than me and who had a job at the time, like they got it, and I played it for a millisecond, and I thought it was the coolest thing that had ever existed.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, cool. And then I watched my other cousin, my younger cousin, play it.
Dude, there's something very bonkers. You used to be able to go to a Perkins in South Dakota,
What?
and you could leave
Instead
your
of
credit card
crayons?
at the host stand, or like you'd check something at the host stand, and they'd have a Game Gear that they'd let you have at the table to play while you waited for food.
Oh, wow.
This blew my mind.
That's
Plus,
cool.
there were still smoking sections in Perkins, so you could be inside smoking a cigarette as a kid playing Game Gear.
Well, that would have been fucking sick. Are you kidding me? They gave me crayons, which, I mean,
Plus,
learned
they have
how to-
underage
I'm-
drinking here, and it's legal. So
If you gotta,
It
if
is.
you gotta,
You can drink at any age.
I did technically have my first beer when I was 15, so.
coming up in May here, we have almost no games of consequence coming out, but Fifth Element, Austin Powers International Man of Mystery, and Lost World Jurassic Park 2. A bunch of bangers in the box office.
Sure.
The only game that I could even scrounge up that I think was worth talking about was Lost Vikings 2, releasing on the SNES, PS1, and Saturn.
Okay.
Never heard of it.
I had
Never played The Lost Vikings?
I had Lost
I
Vikings
researched it
1
for
and 2.
this. Never heard of it.
Lost Vikings is great. Fun puzzle solving. The first one, it's all Vikings, and then it gets into weird sci-fi where it adds a werewolf and like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
It's
That's
fun.
kind of sick. That's
Dude,
cool.
and they all have different abilities where you have to get through a level using all of them to get like slightly further here or there.
So it's like a Mega Man level.
No, because Mega Man is like action. This is slow. Like you move Olaf's shield forward there so air can go up this ladder and one guy can shoot an arrow through this hole. Lost Vikings is
wanna die.
really cool.
Yeah, I had fun with it. I never played the sequel, but hey.
I think Nintendo kind of started panicking around this time as well. Once they realized that FF7 was going to be the big juggernaut that it is, and the PlayStation was what it is, they really want to get that 64 DD out and going. But they can't figure it out yet. They announced it was going to be getting pushed back to summer or fall of 1998.
Turns out you can't just add another piece of hardware to make yourself viable.
At least they had.
They came out later. This is so dumb.
At least they had the understanding to not release it in North America, whereas like Sega is just jamming into every possible opening in the Genesis. Like, we're going to put something else in your opening.
I've seen some great stuff with like Mario Paint.
Tom, were you aware of anything about the Apple Bandai Pippin that was going on at the time? Because I think that was obscure, probably even for...
It was. I have a vague recollection of the Apple Pippin looking. It was like supposed to be a console, I believe.
I
Apple's
prefer the
Ferrari.
Apple Mary.
Hey. I prefer the
sorry, I had to say
Apple
that.
Fatty Bulger.
Yeah,
That's pretty good too.
all I know is it was a flop.
It flopped, was discontinued, and Apple computers seemed to be failing as well, and they laid off thousands of employees.
But was it supposed to be like a home computer / game console or something that hooked up to your TV?
Yep. And then they were licensing it out to Bandai, and they tried with that for a while. It was one of those things where it was poorly marketed, poorly executed, and failed miserably.
Yep.
One more month before we go to break here. In June, Batman and Robin hits theaters.
What killed Batman?
The Ice Age.
The Ice Age. Which I think Batman and Robin is an underappreciated Batman film. It
agree.
leans heavily into the camp, and it is very fun to watch.
It's
Yep.
Bad nipples
Agreed.
and bad credit cards, they are going full ham on that shit.
Yep.
Do you take American Express?
I think,
Bad card. Never leave the cave without it.
yeah, way more fun to watch than Batman Forever. Where we're still trying to be semi-serious.
Although I will say Jim Carrey's Riddler is very fun.
Now, I'm actually going to defend the Joel Schumacher era because Batman until the mid 80s was campy as fuck. And these are the things that Joel Schumacher was referencing in his movies.
Well, he wasn't, and then the sitcom, or not the sitcom, but the 60s show made him campy, and then he was...
I mean, in the 60s show, everyone was like, we're still taking this seriously.
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was also released this month for the first time.
Wait, the book.
Yeah.
yeah, the book.
Okay, the movie's 99, right?
I want to say so.
Yeah.
She cranked
2001.
2001.
Or 2001.
Because Fellowship came out at the same time. And Mike Tyson bites off Evander Holyfield's ear.
Oh, I remember that. Whoa, that was news.
What is Mike
I watched that,
Tyson's
actually.
favorite cereal? Cheerios.
Pigeons.
I remember Bob Hartman told me that one, and I thought it was hilarious.
Evander
I was gonna say
Holyfield.
pigeons. I'm actually.
Pigeons.
I was gonna wear. I'm wearing my pigeon shirt today
Oh.
because I love pigeons the same way Mike Tyson does. But I am also not violent enough to bite off someone's ear.
Yeah, Mike Tyson has some issues.
And it's really weird. They give him animated shows and stuff.
You're
Just
like-
gonna call that out.
You're my hatful boyfriend.
E3
Love
happens.
Hatful Boyfriend. It's so funny.
E3 happens June 19th through 21st. The biggest winners of E3 from the obscure message boards that I was reading, Banjo-Kazooie and Metal Gear Solid made very big impressions with their trailers. That Metal Gear Solid trailer features, a lot of that first level, and it's got very cinematic cinematic look to it.
Oh, yeah.
And the music, and that was just put on loop at the Konami.
Yes.
Konami
I think
stand.
people were mostly blown away by all the particle effects and all the papers that would
Yep.
were flying around the screen, just like dynamically.
Yeah.
Well, they showed a bit of the first Gray Fox
Okay. Yeah.
portion. That part rules of that game.
Kojima had
badass.
such a different approach to cinematic video game storytelling. It looks so different, and it's just striking how much more it looks like a movie than other games at the time.
Even when their faces just looked like garbled messes.
But at the time,
yes, I know.
beautiful garbled
Yep.
messes.
I know.
And then you also had Banjo-Kazooie, which people were very excited about. I think this is the
A game
spiritual
that still
successor.
would look good.
Yeah, I mean, Rare is just kicking so much ass.
Yeah.
This year and for all of the 64 era.
Are you guys Banjo fans?
It's in one of my top 10 favorite games of all time.
Never played Banjo.
Me neither.
I played Nuts and Bolts, so no, never played Banjo.
If you can
Hey!
now here's what I'll say. If you can put yourself into the headspace and you can exist within this little world that's created, it's one of the best platformers ever created. If you have the patience for collectathons,
Right.
that's it.
I do not.
Ukulele.
do not.
sucked.
I've heard it's a lot
Ukulele
better
wasn't
than
good.
Donkey Kong 64.
It's
That was an abomination.
it's probably 15 times better than that.
But did they have a rap? Checkmate.
Yeah, I guess. Wow. Oof. I got
Do you have a bird
lapped
that lives
on
in your
that shit.
backpack or some shit?
Yeah.
Duke Nukem Forever was announced.
There you
Surely
go.
it'll come out soon.
Yeah.
Conker's Quest looks very wholesome and not at all filthy.
That's right.
It's
Well-
interesting that they had to remake, like, Because how much of the game, I wonder, did they actually have to redo?
I would guess maybe 30%.
Maybe I don't know
done before they had to redo it.
Because to add a great talking poo, you can't just. It isn't a fudge monster. It's poop now. You can't just change all of that.
Well, from what I understand, they had 30% of the game
Great
done.
Mighty Poo.
And obviously Conker, in a game that was released later in this year, he showed up on Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah.
They were going for wholesome because if you play Diddy Kong Racing, he's just a cute ass squirrel.
Yeah.
And
That's
even-
pretty much
Didn't
it.
they come out with Conker's Quest?
Conker's Bad Fur Day was the
Conker's
first.
Bad Fur Day is what they came out with, but on the Game Boy, I want to
Yes.
say they had Conker's
Yes.
Pocket Tales.
I believe it was the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, she
Game Boy
had
Color.
games, yeah.
And that was there's nothing raunchy about
Nope.
that. It is the Conker character in a wholesome little platforming exploration game.
I think Rare just rebelled.
Yeah, I'd like to get the story of this. I might have.
Because I'm pretty sure Conker's Bad Fur Day, when the Nintendo logo comes up, Conker says those fucking assholes or something like that.
Now I have it. I've actually played through Conker's Bad Fur Day about 5 months ago, and it's a fantastic. It's almost an adventure game because the platforming means next to nothing in that video game, but it is still like a 3D run around kind of do shit game.
Yeah, it's one I wanted to play.
It's a game so of its time.
Yeah.
Where
It's still funny though.
yeah, it's got references to The Matrix. It's got references to all of these movie
Well,
franchises.
more
It's
in
even got
Reloaded.
it's got a Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
More in Reloaded, they added more of that stuff. You don't think so?
No, I think they only added the multiplayer aspect.
I remember a lot of Apocalypse Now, and I remember The Matrix.
No reason that couldn't have been back there. If anything, I think the story's mostly intact, except they bleeped out a lot of the fuck words for the Reloaded one, which bastards. Bernie Stoller, formerly of Sony, now an executive vice president of Sega, at E3 announces the Saturn is not our future.
Disappointing all the
Yep.
Toms in the world.
I'm the captain of the ship. This ship's going down.
The ship's going down. Yep, I remember that.
Talk about a vote of no confidence.
Yeah, and they had some decent games in the works that ended up not selling well after this. And here you got your Panzer. It's what your Panzer Dragoon Sega is $800 for a fucking copy now.
A couple of small games came out in June. We have the Harvest Moon series making its series debut. The SNES game. They're still getting some quality Super Nintendo games this year. Not many, but Harvest Moon comes out.
Have you guys ever played Harvest Moon?
No, because the concept of a farming game, to me at this point, seems a little too weird. I think I would actually really like it, though.
Now hold on. I mean,
played
if you're gonna
Farming
play,
Simulator.
if you're going to play one, no. Your first choice should always be Stardew Valley. It's just you can't go back to this one.
Is the Harvest Moon series still quite active?
Yes. No, not as much. It's Harvest Moon. Even up until the end of the GameCube era, they had very popular games like Friends of Mineral Town and stuff like that.
Dynasty Warriors makes its series debut as a fighting game this
The Muso
this month.
style.
And another small little game called Star Fox 64 is released. It is the first 64 game to utilize the Rumble Pack with which it was bundled.
Yeah,
Second best-selling game of the year, Star Fox 64.
That Rumble Pack
love
blew my mind.
That's the quickest I've ever had a turnaround on a product.
you hated
Because
it?
you thought the Rumble Pack was stupid
I'm
before?
like, that's fucking dumb. There was a kiosk at Shopko or something. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Look at this dumbass kid playing this spaceship game with a
oh,
controller.
it vibrates. Cool.
Yeah, and then I went to play it, and then the minute I got hit and the thing started vibrating, I'm like, this is fucking awesome! Tactile feedback forever!
Yes.
So I bought it right then and there. And
That game
it's a great
is-
game.
It's
It's
also,
2 minutes long, but it's great.
All right. Well, we're halfway through the year, which means we're halfway through the episode here.
Dun, dun.
We're going to hear from some of the other amazing podcasts from the Greenlit Podcast Network. Make sure to check out these other fantastic shows. We are going to get some more beers, and we
Yes.
will be right back.
Absolutely.
And we're back.
No.
It's me, Tom.
And the fart.
And Brad in the far.
Brad the fart.
I don't know when this joke started.
What's my identity anymore?
I don't understand it, but I'm into it.
That's right.
Dylan's still not finishing his beers.
I don't like the spittle.
Oh, Dylan.
And we're back, everyone. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that brief break.
I'm Ira Glass.
We're back. We're going back in time.
July of 1997.
Whoa!
Man, all the hot dogs I ate.
I was probably upset at Little League at this point because I'd rather be staying home playing Mega Man X. I didn't even have any big news for July for the headline. Sega Saturn drops its price to $149. It held off for a while because when PlayStation and 64 dropped their prices, they kept theirs up at $199, but they were also offering 3 games with the console. So they're saying this is still a good price, but yeah.
When they announce that basically they're done for with it, just drop it to a hundo.
Yeah. Abandon ship. But also,
Get whatever.
Not quite Virtual Boy liquidation numbers, but those come later.
the Sega Genesis is discontinued at some time this year. I just lumped it in with July. It causes unrest to those who bought the 32X and as well as the Saturn. They're just noticing that they are abandoning everything. Rumors of the next Sega system start appearing this month.
Oh, yeah.
It's called the Titanic too.
Well, you know, it's interesting.
It was a great Titanic.
It was in one of the Game Pros where I saw this and it said, dreaming of the future already or something. Like they had Dream featured prominently in their like
Oh,
title.
really? The code name was always Dural or Katana.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that's what they used to call it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Melina was taken.
Well, Tom, when he heard the word
Sega
dream,
Kolinsky.
he stared up at his Nights into Dream posters that he had scattered all over his wall.
Yeah, I like Nights, man. That closing,
I
that
like
closing
Nights.
song. Oh,
It's pretty sick.
Nights
banger.
into Dreams, and I want to say Panzer Dragoon are probably the Sega Saturn titles that are the biggest. When you think of Saturn and like the poster
Remembrances, yeah.
games, that's what I think of.
Really? Yeah, those are good.
I've thought about getting the Panzer Dragoon remake for the Switch for a little while now, just because, like, I hear people like say the people who are like criticizing it are judging it by now.
Right.
They
They
like,
never
that
played.
standards, yeah. And there's a part of me that's like, I could use a rail shooter. Like, who makes those anymore? So there's a part of me that's like, I'll drop if they make it $20,
You're in?
I'll play the damn thing. I've never played it before.
Tom, were you familiar at all with the Panasonic M2?
A little bit. I read a bunch of articles on it. I was curious about it. All right, it was like an add-on for the 3DO, and it was supposed to bring the system up to like the PlayStation or somewhat to a Saturn level to be able to like process more polygons.
Now, what was this actual add-on?
It started off as an add-on, and then they weren't sure, do we do its own console? Then they were developing games for it, but then they also said, we're not sure if we're ever releasing this because it doesn't make sense to us yet.
Exactly.
Well,
So
it was canceled.
it was.
The hardware was successfully used, though, in arcade boards, teller machines, and coffee vending machines. So luckily, it still survived somehow.
Good job. All right.
Like how Konami only makes pachinko machines.
Right. Or how the Atari Jaguar
damn it.
turned into a
Well, you know
dental
they're
machine.
making video games again.
Well,
now.
yeah. What have you seen about this new Konami game? Is it supposed to be good?
It's apparently they're also funding a new Silent Hill. This is the rumor. Well, here's the thing. In the age of this pandemic, there's no one who's going to be touching the buttons on a pachinko machine.
Speaking
Addiction.
of gambling, EA acquired Maxis, and it seemed like it wasn't necessarily big news at the time, but if we could foresee what would come of it later, we might be upset.
Ooh, yes. Yep. They were leading towards some happy times, and then definitely the rocket plummeted to the fucking earth.
August was a very big month this year. Brad turned 10 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Princess
You turned 10 in 97?
and Princess Diana dies in a car crash this month. The Backstreet Boys release Backstreet's Back, and South Park makes its television debut. And parents were upset, and kids were happy.
Loved it.
Yep,
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
loved South Park. Still do. I'm very excited for their coronavirus episode.
It's going to be controversial. Yes.
So, I mean, most people remember August for one thing, and that's the Gamecom.
The game.com.
The Game.com, which is actually the domain name for the Gamecom. I don't know how they got Gamecom, but
No shit.
I owned a Gamecom.
You did.
There's going to be so many games for it, I couldn't not have a Gamecom. Turns out there's only 20 games.
Apparently. Jeez, man.
Well, Tiger Electronics, they wanted to get into having like a real portable game console. And it was also a PDA. You could do email. It had a lot of functionality.
It had some neat features, intuitive features.
Did it have a little stylus?
It
I think
did.
so.
It had ports of Mortal Kombat. It had ports of Resident Evil 2, and they are fucking unplayable. I've seen them.
Bad.
I didn't play those. I don't even remember what games we had. It was bad. But it was the first video game console to include a touchscreen, and it's the first portable with internet connectivity.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Better than the Game Gear?
No. I'd rather.
Definitively.
What is the motion blur called with the Game Gear that you get?
I just called it blur. Like
Motion blur, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, this had that, but worse. And there's no color.
Yeah.
If you're playing like a simple puzzle game or solitaire, the Gamecom was fine, but retail price $70 and sold less than
Still
300.
cheaper than the Game Gear Mini.
Yeah. The Gamecom Mini, the Gamecom Classic.
It's
When are we
coming.
getting it? When are
Trust
we
me.
getting it? Yeah.
From the people that brought you Game Gear Micro.
Day one.
You wanted something even smaller.
It's day one.
The PS1 dual analog controller lands in America.
The most important
The DualShock?
technological.
This wasn't the DualShock. This is the dual analog.
Yes.
Sony decides to remove the vibrating function, possibly out of fear of the 64 Rumble Pack getting sued because of that. The Rumble function was not released in the initial analog controller.
Okay.
A shame.
Wow.
But this was huge because I don't know how you could go back and play Crash Bandicoot without an analog controller.
I have. And actually, when I played it on the Switch, I found myself moving down from the analog stick back to the quote unquote D-pad.
For certain things, it's great that
For one.
Up
for
goes
Crash
up.
Bandicoot 1.
Yep. August 11th, Tetrasphere for the Nintendo 64, which
What is that?
Okay.
had a warped three-dimensional
Ubisoft.
grid resembling a sphere. Interesting. I don't know. I've never played it. Sonic Jam releases for the Saturn. I know we're not giving you a real Sonic title, but here's a compilation of 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles that features a 3D hub world with kind of like a museum and console artwork.
That's kind of cool.
Sega's done a lot of things wrong, but they're really good at always having every compilation of every Sonic game for every system.
You know, I've been called
That is true.
They know when they got a layup, and they will make their layups.
But where's fucking Sonic CD on here? Huh?
That was a debacle at the time because Sonic CD wasn't on there.
God damn it.
Sonic CD is
Where's
pretty good.
Spinball? Fuck.
Well,
Why would you want?
Let's calm down.
Hold on now.
Because of that, because
Did
the
you really
amazing
care?
soundtrack for Spinball.
Because I have the Sega Genesis Classic Collection, and I have played this game before, and I have fond memories of it. And Matt was basically like, "Oh no, this game is great," and then I'm like, "No, we're gonna play it right now. I have it. It's right here.
Yeah.
it's perfectly emulated."
Dude, I think if someone were to tighten up the lag in the gameplay, the level
lag would
designs
be
are
okay.
fun. It's interesting the way you advance through pinball levels.
It takes literally 2 seconds between your button press and the flip of your like,
You
paddle.
hit jump, and then a second later,
Yes.
he jumps. That is bad. But if they were to make a full remake of it and tighten it up,
They could do it.
I think the level design's good.
I would love if Christian Whitehead made a Sonic Spinball.
Another game was released called GoldenEye 007.
Oh, what? Wait, what?
The third best-selling Nintendo 64 game of all time, 4-player console split screen. The multiplayer component was added 6 months prior to release, almost completely by one person, Steve Ellies. So everyone can thank him.
There you go.
This proved in a big way that shooters were viable as a console multiplayer experience.
Should I show him the thing I showed you, Tom?
Please.
Yep.
Dylan, you have the box.
Now
to
you
go
see,
with.
box for
we're looking
GoldenEye
at the
here.
cover to GoldenEye 007, and you see Pierce Brosnan here, and
Yep.
he's holding up a gun, right?
Yeah.
Now imagine if this line here is still his mouth.
He got bit by a bee on the right side of his face.
It's one of the coolest
Yeah.
things I've ever observed
It's great.
in my life.
If you've ever read The Outsider by Stephen King, he kind of looks like that.
And as I mentioned the other day, I've never beaten a 64 game. I've barely ever played a 64.
This one is going to be very difficult for you. I would not
Right.
suggest this.
No,
one.
I've played this a little bit. I don't like the aiming setup. It's very wonky.
Because it's the C buttons.
Because it's C buttons, and it's not. I mean, you need dual analogs for first-person shooters. in
Yes,
there.
you
A little
do.
dated, for sure.
But this completely revolutionized the game. I remember playing this, and I was just so bad at it, and I had no concept of anything. And another thing that GoldenEye does, which they completely discarded later, it starts off as inverted. They
Good.
treat it well.
Yes.
They treat it like it's a fucking like space game where the up
My people.
where pulling back on the stick means you're going up, and then pulling down means you're yeah.
This game was delayed so many times.
Well,
Oh, yeah?
GoldenEye came out, but the GoldenEye movie was 95, right?
Yeah, it came out so far after the movie had its heyday, its theater run.
Why was it delayed so often?
I don't know.
It was probably shitty.
Yeah, I mean the film came out in '95.
Yep.
So they must have been working on it since like.
But they had
mid-95.
they had screenshots from like the beginning of the N64, like even before it came out. Like these are games coming out, GoldenEye, and
I didn't realize this was developed by Rare as well.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Rare did everything for Nintendo.
We were doing our Nintendo episode on the Dogcast recently. It was talking about worst ideas or worst things Nintendo has done. Someone brought up letting Rare go away, and then there's the counterpoint. What good games has Rare made since they left Nintendo?
Avatars for Xbox.
Who could forget Cameo Elements of Power? That's one of them, right?
That game's pretty
Perfect
good.
Dark
It's not bad, but no one has
Viva
a lot
Pinata.
of Viva Pinata.
Viva Pinata.
I have buddies that have played a lot of Viva Pinata.
Yeah.
It's an easy game to
Sea of
play.
Thieves.
Sea of
yeah.
Thieves was cool.
Connect Sports.
Connect Smart.
But 64,
Nuts and
Rare
bolts.
was where it was at.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Everyone was going crazy for GoldenEye. I wasn't a 64 kid, and I don't have many friends that were.
I had sold my 64 by this time.
My mom
You
literally
sold your 64.
I did. Yep.
When did you sell it?
Shortly before,
97?
shortly before this, because I
Really?
did not get into the GoldenEye. Because I think Star Fox 64 might have been the last game that I bought and played for it.
Wild.
So
Because this was in its like heyday.
Were you enjoying the PlayStation then? Is that
Well,
where your focus was? Or you were
yes.
PC gaming mostly?
I was kind of getting out of the whole cartridge gaming thing, but I was mainly getting into PC gaming now, emulation,
Oh, yeah.
and still Saturn and PlayStation. And
The N64 was literally
a great decision.
my mom got it for me for Christmas of '99. That's how late it was, and she said, "This is the last video game console I will ever buy for you."
jeez, that's ominous, man.
It's ominous.
Here you go. Have your fucking
No, and she was right. She was right. But then I actually had to like mow lawns. I had to actually fucking earn the GameCube.
Yeah, that's the same for me. The PS2 was the first system that I had to buy.
Yeah.
Because we got a PlayStation Christmas of 97 is when we got it.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
My mom was like, "No, I'm not
Checks
going
out.
to do this anymore." It's like there's so many of these things, and she said, She literally told me once, "I don't understand these things."
Now, some people will say, wake me up when September ends, but September of 97 was a seminal month, a great month. September, Microsoft releases Internet Explorer 4. Apple announces Steve Jobs as CEO.
Wow.
The Tokyo Game Show features the first footage of Castlevania 64, and Mortal Kombat Annihilation is pushed back to November to ensure we have the best movie possible. And they did, and that's what they could do. But Nintendo of Japan president announces he will retire in the year 2000. Just so you guys know, I'm leaving in 2.5 years. Okay.
Hiroshi Yamauchi.
Yep.
And he was only
This is
like
what they do.
He was only like the third president in Nintendo's history,
Yes.
and this company started in like 1850.
Isn't that crazy? He said he wanted to remain until the 64 disc drive was released. Now, there's a lot of video games that comes out this month. We do need to just mention September 7th, Final Fantasy VII lands in North America, and my life was changed.
I didn't get to play it until I was 15, which would be like 2005. However, I watched a cousin play it as usual. I didn't have the money for it. This game sparked my imagination in a way that is indescribable.
When you learn how to read,
Yes.
that's like a moment when you can finally just like pick up a book and you get lost in a book for the first time.
A lot of people-
I have all my Animorphs still because they hold that first experience in the story. And the Super Nintendo, to an extent, had Final Fantasy VI. We didn't have Chrono Trigger back then, but we had, Legend of Zelda and Landstalker for the Genesis. But this was the first major storytelling game that I remember watching my brother play in a very big way. And to realize that a story could be told through a video game in this form, 7 is what opened up my mind to this new art form.
Yep.
and a lot of people's minds.
Well, for
or at
me,
least tried to dabble.
And Tom's
in
like,
it.
I've been playing Fallout for a long time.
This is what got me to buy a PlayStation. So,
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep. So September of 1997 is when
took you like a year and a half then?
yeah, I didn't get it right away. I had friends that had it.
Yeah.
So that's also why, and Saturn was on the decline. So I'm like, oh.
You had to hedge your bets.
I convinced my brother to buy the PlayStation. I'm like, you're going to love this Final Fantasy game. I can't read yet. You're going to love it.
RPGs in general, they taught me how to read. because they were interesting, and I had to learn how to do it in order to understand what the hell was going on. There's a game, I think it's Fatal Labyrinth for the Sega Genesis. And
One
that's
of
a
the
game
first
where
roguelikes.
like the East series, you have to run into your enemies in order to actually do damage. And I learned how to do that, and it would tell me things on the bottom, and I said, I don't know what the fuck that means. It literally taught me how to read.
Now, I don't remember which game specifically, but me and my good friends, Tommy and Ryan, they have a little brother named Petey.
Oh, Peter.
And I don't know if it was Pokemon or what it was, but we caught him playing a game, and he was near the end of the game. It was something Pokemon related.
Yeah.
And we realized
been red or blue,
somehow
right?
the language was set to Japanese. And we were like, Petey, you know it's set to Japanese? He didn't even know.
That is
Because
awesome.
he was so young, but he was just powering through this game.
That is so sick. That is so sick.
And also Pokemon, he just hears Pikachu. I was like, he's in, he got it, you know?
Right.
The only reason I know basic Japanese, I know very basic social constructs and stuff like that, is literally because of first of all, anime, but second of all, video games. Because if you had someone with an illegal copy of something else, you would have to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
And you would just be like, well, this kanji means this and this kanji means that. And truly, even for prolific people now, there are people who are like, yeah, I played Final Fantasy 2 and that taught me how to read.
Yeah.
And it's one thing where some people say it's good to watch subtitled films to learn how to do that. And it is, but what's great about learning a language through video games is a lot of it you can move at your own speed. So you can take the time to start recognizing what's going on, because I also agree, I learned a lot of my vocabulary, and you learn to read because you have to, because you're playing a game. It is so important you can keep playing a video game more than you can keep reading a book. And to an extent, I learned some vocabulary from, Harry Potter's and this and that too. But video games, it's a stimulus that really works for children.
Yeah.
It does.
I'm just envisioning
Absolutely.
Petey powering through fucking Romance of the Three Kingdoms or something,
Well, for me,
He's just not understanding any of it, but it's still just success. And he gets that music note that says he won, and he's like, yes. We'll make one special note for this month that Ultima Online is the first online game to have over 100,000 subscribers this month.
Great.
oh boy.
Tom, did you have any strong feelings about that?
I never played it.
So I'm going to list off the rest of the games that came out this month. If you want to talk about any of them, just chime in.
Sure.
Oddworld Abe's Odyssey.
Awesome. Love this game.
That was the first of the Oddworld series too.
It was.
I played the
yes.
remake.
Yes, and the new and tasty. It
was good.
It was really good too.
Postal for the PC.
I have actually played this.
This is a
Not
controversial
fun.
game.
Not fun.
Yeah,
Not
Postal
fun
2 I
anymore.
played.
I think it's just most notable because of it was so violent.
Edgy
and
is the
and
word.
not well put together.
Yes.
Mega Man X4 for the PS1 and Saturn.
Brilliant. You get to be Zero. And actually, Zero is the most fun part to play. You can tell that the developers were kind of bored of doing Mega Man. So they said, let's do the sword guy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did.
I think
Okay.
X4 might have been one of the last good X games though, because
Yes.
afterwards they are getting
Five is okay.
they're starting to decline into some shit there.
You're right.
We'll talk about Mega Man another time. Lego Island, the first North American Lego
Ooh.
video game, PC.
Ooh, this game sucks. But I'll tell you what, I played a lot of it at a cousin's house.
All right.
Croc Legend of the Gobos. This is one that
Played
my
this
family
also.
definitely had and
Played
we
it.
beat.
You beat it?
I played some Croc, and let me tell you, it lived up to its name.
A crock of shit.
Hey!
It was first pitched as a Yoshi platformer, and even Shigeru was like, I'm curious. And then Nintendo very seriously said, back off.
Hey, we
Yes,
made
I
Mario
know that
64. We don't need this shit.
Resident Evil Director's Cut for the PS1.
Oh, yeah. Got that day one with my PS1, baby.
Because there was a lot of bad choices for the original release, as far as there's music that was very bad for the original Resident Evil. And they
Famously, someone who claimed to be, I believe, deaf made the music.
Oh, really?
But then later it was just found out that he was just like making up horse shit. Now don't quote me on this.
Okay.
I remember a vague story about this where something is up with this music director.
Sure.
Something's up. I know that.
They updated graphics and camera angles as well.
Full motion video intro.
Yeah, but they didn't use the
remix.
Japanese one. Because people thought they were going to use the Japanese version for the director's cut, and they were upset that they saw the shitty American one.
Yeah. But it's so, oh my God.
To me, embrace the shit. You know, embrace the camp. I'm the master. You're the master of unlocking Jill.
Yeah. Yeah.
You almost became a Jill pancake.
Jill sandwich.
I remember that very specifically.
As someone who's read all 6 Resident Evil novellas,
you read those too? Oh my God.
I do enjoy the Barry character more than I should.
He dies off screen in a game later.
Duke Nukem 3D. Sucks. Bravo Air Race. We had this game. My family wasn't great.
Never, no.
Frogger for the PS1.
That one's okay.
Yeah.
Bushido Blade.
Excellent.
Very good, yeah.
One of my favorite fighters of all
it's
fucking
good.
time.
It's very good.
Nightmare Creatures.
Always wanted to get it. Looked intriguing. Never did.
Never.
In October, Japan's maglev train breaks the world record at 280.3 miles per hour.
Train. Woo-woo. Crashes into the Dow Jones.
And the global stock market crashes into me after the Dow Jones drops. I don't know when Crash Into Me came out, but if it was 97, that'd be great.
Dave Matthews.
Gunpei Yokoi dies from a double car accident.
A double car accident.
Yeah.
Now, can someone explain to me what a double car
It's
accident is?
when 2 cars have an accident.
Is that really just it?
That's what it said.
It's just 2
on
cars that
Wikipedia.
crash into each other?
Wasn't he like changing a tire and he got hit by a car?
Oh no!
Well,
Maybe I don't know. Maybe another car hit another
or maybe
car
he had an
and
accident and then he was outside talking to the people he had an accident with.
The accident happens.
I think he got hit while he was standing outside.
Gunpei.
If you want to hear more about Gunpei Yokoi, check out the Hair the Dogcast that was released last week, which has a lot of us gushing over how great he was.
Yep, the best and worst of Nintendo.
He's a fabulous man, by the way. Everyone only had great things to say about him.
Mm-hmm. The Super Nintendo released their 3rd version, the smaller model, the SNES 101, released at retail at $99.95.
Fair price.
Let's talk about some of these games. I'm just going to go through the list of all the games released this month, and if you have strong feelings...
do.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, I have strong feelings about the first one.
This is a great month. Holy shit.
Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero.
Okay, this is
October
not
1st.
indicative of
No,
Love it, bitch.
but this is a great month. This game, I was pumped. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero.
you?
I was pumped. Okay, we learned more
didn't
about
even know what it
Sub-Zero,
was.
and there's an adventure game based on him. This will be great.
Oh my God,
and
so
GamePro reassured me this would be great. Turns out it wasn't great.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
They had live cutscenes they filmed over 1 week, and that's fun. To use the same engine that Mortal Kombat uses for an adventure game is baffling.
It's horrible.
It is a fighting engine. It's also why that Batman and Robin video game doesn't work for the PlayStation because... or is it
there's a
Batman
lot of
Forever?
reasons.
Batman Forever.
It's the Batman Forever because they
We're
use the
in
Mortal
Arkham at
Kombat
the beginning,
engine and don't do that.
No. I played this game for the first time last year, just for the hell of it, just to see what it looked like. And yeah, it was. I couldn't even get past half.
Here's
the first
the
stage.
problem,
I'm
though.
like,
I heard kids talk about it in school,
Yeah.
and they loved it.
Well, and it's fascinating through nostalgia glasses because GamePro and Electronic Gaming Monthly, a lot of these magazines gave it good reviews of like, it's interesting in this stuff. Sometimes it doesn't work great for platforming, but the gameplay's fun and Sub-Zero learns his techniques like an RPG. October 2nd, Marvel Superheroes for the PlayStation 1 and the Sega Saturn.
Never. No, I don't know I don't even know what that is.
Fighting game? Marvel Superheroes?
Never, I mean, no, I haven't played it, but here's one where I know the Saturn version with the.
You know the Saturn version.
I know the Saturn version with the optional like 4 megabyte memory card or whatever is like an arcade perfect port of the game.
Yeah.
And the PS1 is like missing frames, but yeah, never really got into the Marvel fighting games until Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
There was a small PC game October 10th called Fallout. Nothing would ever come of this series.
No, never heard of this fucking
So
thing.
you'd mentioned this earlier. You were calling Funkoland and you were just, is it out yet? Is it out yet? Do you have it yet?
I'm pretty sure that was Fallout 2 because
that's
I did
Fallout
not
2.
I did
Okay.
not play Fallout exactly right when it came out. It was probably 4 or 5 months afterwards. So I was not playing Fallout right now. Mainly because I was really into all the 3D games.
The original Fallout was a top-down RPG.
Yeah.
Okay, because I mean, I've never played them. So
Yep. So they're like in the style that you hate. It's just,
I feel like I kind of missed the boat on some of those, though.
I don't know. I mean, they have since modernized them with Pillars of Eternity and Divinity Original Sin on Baldur's Gate 3 that's coming out. I haven't played a lot of them, the newer versions either, but I hear they're Divinity for sure is fantastic.
But you wound up falling in love with Fallout eventually?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Fallout is probably my favorite franchise. It's the only thing I actually have like multiple items of swag, and I have the board game as well. And the only video game tattoo I would get would be Vault Boy.
And of course, Fallout, the series would never be disrespected or treated poorly by any company ever after this.
Nope.
October 10th also saw Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2.
Yep. Great game.
It's very good.
Looked awesome.
October 15th, Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the PlayStation 1.
Yes.
I'm going to put this in my top 5 video games of all time easily.
It's my top 10.
Yep. I have no problem just...
It's a game I can just pick up.
Yep.
Anytime.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
I got this one the day it fucking came out.
Ooh.
I got to this one late.
Where did you get it, Tom?
I got it from Best Buy on Blue Mountain Road in Brookfield, Wisconsin. It's still there.
It's still there.
It's still there. I went to get it, and my car broke down after I pulled out of the parking lot after purchasing the game. It broke down in the middle lane, and I had to be pushed over to the side of the road with the help of a female officer. It's interesting about Castlevania. There wasn't a lot of heat around this game that I remember when it was
released. 2D.
It's a stupid 2D game.
It's a dumb 2D game.
Why would anyone want to play a 2D game with...
play the 3D
how many
shit.
polygons does it have?
I mean, honestly, I probably had the same kind of mindset, but there was something about it where I'm like, this looks really good, and I want to play it.
I love the reviews. When you go across all the magazines and all of the sites that you can find reviews of back then, it's either 1 out of 10. Stupid 2D game. It looks... Why are they even trying to make a game of the past? And other people just realizing this is one of the best games ever made. This is an incredibly solid, fascinating, interesting take on 2D exploration platforming because, you had Super Metroid and, the original Metroid, which are creating Metroidvanias to an extent. But
Super more than anything.
More, I mean, but the Nintendo one had, to an extent, some of that. But Metroidvania was really born from this game because it took the Super Metroid gameplay style,
Metroid,
and it just refined it. Oh God, it's so good. And then of course,
so slick.
And then the twist when you find out that Bruce Willis was dead the whole time at the end of the game. No one saw that coming.
He was Shaft,
and then you must murder him as a ghost. Very good.
Bruce Willis was Shaft the whole time.
Man.
man.
I said that's inappropriate, and I killed him.
This is going to be wrong.
This is back when Konami was actually fucking great, and kudos to them for keeping this game in development, or even choosing to go down the 2D route and having the anachronistic kind of style. Because everyone is all about the fucking polygons back here,
Another game came out that was very important, Age of Empires for the PC. Now,
I played this one.
As far as PC gaming goes, this is my first one of the only PC games that's ever really mattered to me.
Let's take Warcraft, let's take Civilization, and put them together in a big bowl.
How did my parents know to get us Age of Empires? Did my brother make that? Brian, you're listening. Why do we have Age of Empires? Because that doesn't make sense to me still, but I remember playing the shit out of this game.
Why'd you let us do that?
And getting the Corvette codes or whatever, so you can...
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. I forgot about those.
I still don't understand how our, terrible little... family PC was even able to play this game so well and how it worked, but
it doesn't look great. But when you look at it, it is mostly sprite based, and the sprites are pretty.
It is. It's completely
there's
sprite
no, there's no poly to it. So the fact
game
that
is
it could
great,
run,
though.
in Age of Empires 2, people still contend is the best RTS they've ever played. In their life.
I love Bill Gates does an AMA, and one of the top voted comments is, "Get us a new Age of Empires."
I've heard great things about 3, but
Age of Mythology.
Age of Mythology,
Mortal Kombat 4 that same day hits the arcades.
Oh boy.
And
Don't know anything
Mortal
about
Tuesday.
Mortal Kombat
Terminal
4.
Tuesday?
Yikes. I don't know. It went 3D, and a lot of people, I think, liked it at the time, but everyone would agree it didn't age well.
Never played it. It looked like a pile of shit.
Yeah, neither did
This
I.
is another PC game. For some reason, my family had it. I don't know.
Really?
My brother probably found it in a bargain bin.
Sure.
Yeah, but it sucked. Colony Wars for the PS1. Crash Bandicoot 2 comes out October 31st.
Wrath of Cortex, very good game.
Cortex
Much better
Strikes
than
Back.
one. Sorry,
Wrath of Cortex is a PS2
3.
game.
That was my first and only Crash Bandicoot
had
game.
it.
So Crash Bandicoot 2 was the first time that I saw a PlayStation in action. It was right around this time, back when I was a 10-year-old. Family friend Andrew brought over his PlayStation, and I remember the first time seeing the console start up and that white screen and the sound of the PS1 starting up. Ooh. That's when I knew we needed to get this fucking PlayStation thing.
I've seen the future, Mother.
Mother, please, I require this game.
Thou shalt have this game, Bradley.
The first Crash game, notoriously not that good to play once you get to a certain level in the game. Okay. And it's basically, there's one where you're
It's still fine.
jumping on turtles on like a drawbridge, not a drawbridge.
It's
like
all
a
fog.
bridge.
It's all smoky
It's all fog.
clouds. You
And
can't
then,
see
like,
shit.
If you mess up even once, you are completely fucked.
But
now,
also, that's all about how long you hold your jump, and it's about timing your jumps.
I got through it, and I've gotten through it on the original, and I got through it on the Insane Trilogy.
Another game came out this month called Riven, the sequel to Myst. And I imagine the only reason my family owned this for the PS1, when I say my family, I'm going to say my brother, was because we saw that it had 5 discs, and we thought if FF7 is 3 discs and Riven has 5, just imagine.
Yes.
And we never got to the second disc.
No.
But
This,
What are you bad
This
at
was never
puzzles,
for
you
me.
Ding dong.
I was like, dude, what do I do here? I walked. It's just I'm not used to point and clicks, you know?
Yeah,
Sure.
of course.
I mean,
Especially for the PS1.
even when Myst came out and it was like this thing to sell you on CD-ROMs, I was not into it. I'm like, it made a pretty picture, but that's all it was.
They
Just a
almost
series of
tricked me.
And then, of course, Star Wars Master of Terrascasi.
The best game.
I
on
played
the
this.
console.
And this is one it's funny because reviews are always polarizing. They're either loving it or hating it, but it did introduce
bad.
us to the quintessential Star Wars character.
The Tusken Raider.
it.
Hor.
Yes.
And if you want to hear more about Hor, go to the most listened to Hair of the Dogcast episode in our entire
Ever.
series of podcasting. Check out I'm Han Solo, because it is the most listened to Hair of the Dogcast episode by far.
Han Solo.
Which
I'm
goes
Han
to show you,
Solo.
make sure you put characters' names in the titles of your podcast.
Yes.
When they go on Spotify.
Call this one James.
If we would have
Bond.
put that one where you play as Hor, it wouldn't have gotten as many clicks.
Boba Fett versus Or.
November of 1997, Titanic is a big deal and doesn't flop. Shania Twain releases "Come On Over."
Come on over. Come on over,
Nope.
baby.
Wrong.
I got
Shania
that.
Twain.
That's not.
Whose bet has your boots
Xtina,
been
baby.
under?
That is Shania Twain.
Damn, I feel like a woman.
I feel like a woman. No, it's.
But "Come On Over" is the album.
That was a banger. Oh, I love Shania Twain. I still have a crush on Shania
Oh my
Twain.
God.
She
she's
became
great.
this became
I
the
really got
biggest
that wrong?
biggest selling album in country music history and the biggest selling album by a female artist of all time.
Dude,
Because everyone
my mom
across
had
the
that.
board agreed Shania Twain is fucking hot and this is party music.
No, everyone
Yes.
agreed that they felt like a woman.
When I was
Dude,
at
that's still one of my party songs. If "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" comes on, I will get kicked off the stage by every woman because I'm having too much fun with it.
when I was at Thanksgiving in 1997,
Feeling you look like
with
one.
my racist
that big old
uncle.
beard of yours.
Was that Tom?
When I was at Thanksgiving in 1997 with my racist uncle, when he said like, "That's Shania Twain, she's pretty cute," I was like, "Yeah, dude."
And
We just had a moment.
and you had a moment where you agreed.
Like, we agreed on
It's like,
something.
oh, cool. Yeah,
Yes.
we agree that a hot woman's hot.
Will Smith releases Big Willie Style. Offspring releases Pretty Fly for
Untergrieben, Glauten, Globen.
That's off of the album Smash, right?
Americana.
The final episode of Beavis and Butthead airs, the end of an era. Mike Judge being way too
Dang it,
prescient
Bobby.
about how stupid America would get.
Yeah, no shit.
And further predicts it later. And Mortal Kombat Annihilation releases in theaters and claims the #1 spot.
Shit.
I loved it. I loved that movie. I did. I loved it.
Although Ermac's character would be retconned to oblivion in the best way. We'll get to that for the next Raw Dogs.
Absolutely.
Because Ermac is actually a great character, I found out.
I think so too.
Yep. November's got a shitload of great games, and the only notable news story is Sega is in discussion with Microsoft to make a 128-bit system possibly together. Sega was talking with everyone though, and no one really wanted to hook up with them. It was on Messenger, and they're like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing? We're fine.
Yeah.
How are you, Sega?"
But it did mark the first time that Microsoft actually put its operating system on a console. Dreamcast ran a version of Microsoft CE.
We have
internet.
a lot of games to
Baby.
go through. So we'll start off at the top here. If you have any strong feelings, chime in. November 1st, Ghost in the Shell for the PS1.
Nope.
No.
Curse of Monkey Island for the PC.
Oh, always wanted to get it. Looked beautiful.
You never did?
Cell shaded like cartoon graphics.
This was kind of one of the
got it.
last gasps of that style of gameplay to an
I thought
extent,
for
right?
sure you would be into this, Tom.
I was. I don't know why I didn't play it, to be honest with you, because
heard
I
it's a
remember
really good
watching,
one, too.
reading through PC Gamer and all the reviews. That was my jam. Maybe I just wasn't into adventure games at the time, possibly. But I don't know why I never played it.
Myth Fallen Lords for the PC.
Played the shit out of this demo.
I played the demo a bunch.
I did,
I
yeah.
played the Bugs Life demo on PS1 as well, though.
It looked really cool. It was polygonal, Bungie. This is a fucking Bungie joint. Pre-Halo.
Shock Troopers
Yes.
for the Neo Geo.
Oh my
arcade.
God.
You, Mr. Neo Geo over here. We have our Ninfrendo Dylan, but we have Mr. Neo Geo.
Shock
Tom.
Troopers is a great game. If you like Akari Warriors or top-down fucking like shoot 'em ups, this is the best on the Neo Geo.
I wish that through audio you could hear Dylan's facial expressions as Tom was talking about this.
I'm just like I'm so perplexed. As someone who by osmosis has absorbed a lot of video game history, some of it wrong, obviously, but when you say something like this, I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Dude, the Neo Geo, it's a whole thing that we don't even know about because I've almost never touched it either outside of Metal Slug.
I've never held a Neo
gonna have a
Geo.
full-
How do you not have a Neo Geo Mini?
Because I have a Neo Geo
You have a real one.
action. Yeah.
I would be fascinated to play this.
It's great.
Dude, he knows more about the Neo Geo than anyone I know.
That's sick. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's
I would
awesome.
love
We'll
to
do a Neo Geo
introduce
episode
you.
next year.
Don't worry. As always.
More importantly, November 17th, Parappa the Rapper comes out for the PS1. Loved it.
Yep.
Fucking loved it.
Got it. Day one.
I've-
Funko Land.
If this was released on vinyl, I'd pick this shit up in a heartbeat.
I prefer
Surprised it's not.
to toast the buns.
I know
Toast
that-
the buns.
But we should do one of those
whatever.
Josh Gad like Zoom style group interviews.
Get the entire Parappa cast
The whole
together.
cast together.
Dude, if we could, no
Here
one would pay
we are,
attention.
sitting in the Zoom.
Dude, it's 6 songs. How can they make 6 songs with a rhythm game with a story that actually functions?
And one of them is you have to take a big shit and everyone's in the.
But it's also the penultimate where you have to go fight all of your previous masters.
Yes.
Yep.
Everyone's got a
punch, turn, and chop the door. Or I will fall.
So-
It's fucking brilliant.
So with even what's going on right now, like anyone I knew,
I remember Jammer Lammy came out as kind of the sequel, and I was so bummed that it wasn't rapping; it was electric guitar. So I remember not liking it. Since then, I have gone back, and I was like, "Oh, it was so brilliant! Why did I not realize
I'm
this?"
more of a Guitaru man guy.
Oh God. Yeah, I remember when I went to buy this game, the clerk at Funko Land. I was an adult. I remember him just looking at me like, "Why would you want this fucking kid game?" You know. And at the time, I had never played it, so I'm like,
You slapped your $40 on the thing and you flicked
right.
them off.
And boy, yeah, the joke's on him.
I've actually had that before. I went into a GameStop to reserve Wind Waker. It was 2002. That game looks dumb, and my mom's like, "But it's what he wants."
Wow,
right.
that's terrible.
It's what he wants. I
No,
know.
no,
but
It
it's
turned
what he
out to
wants.
be the best Zelda game.
What kind of
Sorry.
Yeah, some jaded person who's like 4 years older than you has a strong
And I said,
opinion.
but I was
That's
like,
funny.
I would like this, please.
November 18th.
I love it.
November 18th, Sonic R comes out. The Sega Saturn struggle without its
Sonic R came out then?
the Saturn struggles with its lack of a 3D Sonic game, but this racing title could be beaten in less than, what was it, like 2 hours or something like that?
Something like that. I never
And
played
it
it.
controls like shit. I've played it.
No, I
It
never
is
did.
unmanageable. The idea is that everyone except for Robotnik is just running across the screen.
Okay.
And there's supposed to be a drift mechanic that you can use. However, the drift mechanic is so god awful, it's just unmanageable. Robotnik's actually the only character you can play as because there's supposed to be like in Mario Kart, you have heavy, light, and middle characters.
Yep.
It also struggled with the fact that 3 days later, Diddy Kong Racing drops in the 64.
Better than Mario Kart 64.
It was going to be Pro-Am 64, but due to Banjo-Kazooie getting pushed back, they added the character of Diddy Kong to the game.
Also Conker and Banjo.
To make it more sellable, but they put Diddy Kong at the helm. Interesting, this is Diddy Kong's only mainline game in the Donkey Kong franchise, which is fun.
Have you guys ever played this?
Back in the day. Barely.
Yeah, I think I played a couple.
So I played
rounds.
this way more than 64 because I'm going to say it. It's a much more interesting video game. Although
You can fly, yeah.
It's got airplanes, but also hoverboards.
Fly, Diddy.
And it changes the entire dynamic of it because someone can be an airplane and someone can be a hoverboard.
It was never proven, but Puff Daddy did play this game and change his name shortly afterwards. So we don't know if
It all
that's why.
makes sense.
We don't know if that's where it came from, but he
makes-
might be Diddy because
It
of
did.
that.
It did have Banjo. It also had a Conker in it.
No Croc, Legend of the Gobos,
No
noticeably.
Croc. But it also had my favorite character, and his name is Tip Tup, and he's a turtle.
Oh, of course he would be.
Moving on, we have MDK for the PS1, November 21st.
Yep. Never really played those.
Tomb Raider 2 for the PS1.
Never.
Played that.
Kirby's Dream Land 3 for the Super Nintendo.
I have actually played this.
Yep, still some good Super Nintendo
It's-
games coming out late in the life cycle.
Superstar is actually a kind of mature version of Kirby. This kind of went back and gave you all the absorbing powers, but
Yep.
it's a childish version of that.
Yep. Kirby came out. Give your last rights to the console.
Yeah.
Say your goodbyes.
It's
Kirby.
it's the most beautiful Kirby game though. It looks like crayon drawings. It's
Have you
beautiful.
seen Air Ride for the GameCube?
Yeah, I have, and I owned it.
Motor Racer for the PS1. My family had this. It was fun. You got to actually ride a motorcycle on the Great Wall of China.
Oh,
Wow.
So
So-
legal.
So it's cultural.
Fuck.
Street Fighter Collection for the PS1 and Saturn.
Nope.
Monster Rancher for the PS1.
Did play.
Preferred
this.
Pokemon.
I definitely.
Is this the one where you could generate your
Yes. Off
put a
of
CD in?
CDs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you had like the Offspring, you could just
Yes.
put it right in. It would generate a monster for you. And
That's
I did.
fun.
I did generate a monster from the Offspring.
I want to go to a website and look
Nice.
up what monsters were
You had
generated
Offspring
from different CDs.
from the
There is a randomized aspect to it, but once you do it, it'll literally say like you've scanned this already.
Yeah, you've already put Shania Twain in here 10 times today.
Right. We
We got to
get it.
stop this.
We get it. You're right.
woman.
This is the sexiest woman monster we can make.
That's right. Racist uncles would agree.
Bomberman 64. Finish your drink.
Yes, very good. By the
Okay.
way, it's a great 3D platformer.
Is it better than the
And it had-
Xbox reimagining where they modernized it and made it cool?
I think I
That
have.
was a joke. That
No,
was a joke.
never.
The 360 one.
No, never. Actually, Bomberman 64, I remember renting it twice. My mom would never buy it for me, but I remember the commercials.
Right.
Look out, here comes the Bomberman.
Yeah.
Doon,
Is this
doon,
about
doon,
Ted
doon, doon,
Kaczynski?
doon, doon, doon.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. I love that game. You
The
get
fact
little
that he was a
pets.
playable character in the game, though, is very odd.
You get
Put in
little,
a code. This
yeah.
is this guy with the disheveled
The
hair.
big head Ted Kaczynski mode.
It's all about Bomberman dropping bombs and you kick it into people, but it's kind of a 3D platformer with an isometric view. And it was fantastic. I remember it actually being very good.
WCW versus NWO World Tour for the 64. Unfortunately, I did play this game. I preferred the PS1 wrestling games, but it was fine. I was into wrestling at the time. Moving on to December. Now, Spice World debuts in theaters.
Hold on to your knickers, girls.
Nintendo drops cartridge prices to $50 or $60 for the holiday. They drop it down $10 essentially.
Right.
On their new releases.
I would like the look of you 50.
Oh, you like our games, huh?
Right, you 60.
Guess what? We found 10 more 64s in the warehouse, so you can buy those too.
Yes.
No, it's weird. We got all these cartridges. We don't know where to put them.
Not many games for December, so
No, but
Quake 2 for the PC.
Quake 2 is fucking huge. Going back to the fucking video card, this was one of those games where if you had a fucking video card, it was pretty mind-boggling. It's the first time I ever saw a game where if you shot your shotgun or a bullet out of your gun and it traveled down the hallway, the light would reflect off of your projectile as it went down the hallway.
Amazing.
It was pretty fucking cool. Yeah.
That is sick.
It looked great. Yep. Quake was big. Quake 2 was the one that fucking hit.
Yeah.
December 12th, Grand Theft Auto lands on the PS1. This is months after the PC release. Another major franchise landing this year. I personally never played any of the top-down Grand Theft Autos
top-down.
longer
I did.
than 5 minutes.
I did. They're good. They're very good.
I mean, you love Hotline Miami. It's kind of in that same vein, I would
it's
imagine.
in the same vein. Hotline Miami is
As a million, dude, I just started it not long ago.
Did you play
Because I got it on
Hotline?
the Switch.
It's a puzzle game.
Yeah, and it's fun. Yoshi's Story. I don't know.
Yes.
Why would they release this on December 21st? That's making it tough for parents to get that for Christmas.
That is an odd. Yeah.
Do it a week earlier.
You ever played it?
Do it 2 weeks earlier if you can. But yeah, Yoshi's Story came out on December 21st.
I have a bone to pick with this game
Okay.
because it has the most depressing color palette I've ever seen for a video game. The lime
happiest.
Green, no. It is the lime green of your nightmares. It is
it?
literally just like it feels like sludge.
Okay.
The gameplay is okay.
Is it one of those Silicon Graphics like modeled characters?
So
kinda
it's
game?
partial, and you can kind of tell what's going on there.
It's like I can kind of envision in my head. But
It plays a lot like Yoshi's Island, but with none of the charm and none of the art direction.
I mean, after this game was released, they definitely realized that they fucked up and they should have gotten Croc and the Gobos.
I'm just going to say this. Look at the color of Yoshi on the color of Yoshi's Story. That is not a normal colored Yoshi. This is literally the first time they could make like a shiny looking Yoshi in sprite form. And that's what they chose to do. They tried to make him look as if he's a part of the Mario 64 universe.
Wow.
Whereas when you saw Yoshi last, he was carrying a little baby who you loved very much.
love the fucking shoot.
The
Little
only
annoying
other
bastard.
game of note of
Yeah.
1997, Alundra drops December 31st.
What's that?
Now, if you haven't played Alundra, you are sadly missing out because
Alundra?
Alundra is in the top 5 PS1 games of all time.
Alundra.
Is it a shooter? No.
Alundra is like the Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, almost Illusion of Gaia of the PlayStation 1.
Okay.
The main character has the ability to go into dreams. So characters that are suffering from like mental illness, he goes into their dreams, into the dungeons, and it's like a hack and slash exploration puzzle.
Okay.
Alundra is a game that I am desperate to replay as soon as I can because Alundra has aged fantastic. It is as good as Zelda, and it is sadly a hidden gem.
86% on Metacritic.
When did you play this?
I played it back on the PS1 back in the day. Maybe
I've never heard of this game. Can you show me like a picture?
this is just like that's a picture of like the case there, but it looks kind of like that.
That looks good. I mean, the screenshots look good of it.
Okay.
And the story's interesting in that you go into people's dreams to try and like figure out what's wrong with them and to heal them because the dream world is like invading or something like that. But even there's a situation with like twins where the twins have like shared dream mechanisms where you have to like go between two different. Dude,
Interesting.
That's
Alundra.
sick.
That was 1997.
It was a great year.
And we have Mario
Yeah.
Kart 64. We have GoldenEye. We have Star Fox.
Yep.
We have Castlevania Symphony of the Night. We
The
have
ones people
Final
remember.
Fantasy 7.
Yep.
Diablo, Ultima, Quake 2,
Fallout, baby.
Fallout, baby.
Crawl out through the fallout.
Sadly, the Saturn didn't do well.
No, it was still chugging along. It still made it through 97, but
Not for too much longer.
okay. So 97 is a great year. What are the other years that you guys would attribute as the
greatest?
best years?
As far as shooting from the hip, I'd go 2007. I'm not 100%, but I want to say Assassin's Creed, Mass Effect,
BioShock.
BioShock, and also Halo 3 landed
3.
that year.
Yeah.
That one's a staggering
Usually
year.
known as one of the big ones, yeah. I would also go 2018. It was a very good year.
Oh, I would say 2017.
Tom, how can people get a hold of you or the podcast?
Yeah, well, if you're listening to this, thank you. Feel free to check us out on the Dogcast as well. That's more kind of current eventsy, and then we do a topic of the show. Our last episode was the best and worst of Nintendo, and you can get a hold of us at Twitter at HotDogcast. Email us at hairthedogcast@gmail.com. I'm at Tom_Wagner on Twitter.
Dylan, if people want to support us, how can they go about supporting us?
Patreon.com/hairthedogcast.
What are some of the exciting perks they can get?
You can decide what we're going to talk about.
Enough money is less than the cost of a cheeseburger.
Which is perfect.
We love you. Thank you for all your support, people.
Something exciting to announce. We have officially reached over 1,000 followers on Instagram, which is exciting. And you can also find us on Facebook at Hair of the Dogcast. We're Instagram at Hair of the Dogcast, at Hair of the Dogcast.
I think so.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to Raw Dogs. Coming up next will be a Patreon exclusive episode. If you want to hear about me and Dylan's favorite and least favorite Mortal Kombat characters, we have a lot of strong opinions, and it's one of those.
We're going to get into design philosophy on this, by the way. Yeah. So get ready.
You know what's great is that there's a lot of really fucking bad designs in Mortal Kombat, and also great designs, but the bad ones are very bad.
Striker.
Most of them are color swaps, let's be clear. But
oh my God, shoo how. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.